Filter's junk anyway. We must get that out of our way too. Oh. Yeah, I don't think coolant's supposed to be coming out of there. I think it is. That was easier than expected. Oh, it's not too heavy. Anything else up disconnected or connected? That one, I take a ride. Feels like something. Who's still hanging with us? Alright, we're cheating. Looking ahead of time. Nope, it's free. Let's go over to the bench. So it was leaking. Oof, that valve looks terrible, huh? That cylinder, both cylinders look like, all the cylinders look like crap. Look at all the pitting in the top of the middle one though. That, I think that's the problem right there. I'll get you in there, hold on. Alright, so that is what the cylinders look like. Yeah, it's pretty rough. That one's not much better. That's been about 10 minutes. They look pretty good. They're dropping down a little bit. I think it's just the gas evaporating. So if I look in the ports, you would normally see, you know, moisture kind of leaking down around them. Well, now that we know that everything's pretty much a piece of crap, what do you say we try putting it back together the best we can? We'll clean up what we got and see if it'll at least run. Go, baby! We got it! I sure hope that camera was on. And how about one last Yahoo the next morning? Let's go see what she does. That's kind of cooled off and air it out a little. Let off the throttle and sucked my bottle, collapsed everything out of it. Got it running on 3 cylinders then. Maybe we can try to get fuel to the carb. I let off the throttle too much. It just sucks all the fuel right out of the bottle. Hey guys, how's it going? Hey, we're going to continue on this mini truck I picked up with a really crappy engine in it, and we're in the process of trying to resuscitate it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so we got to run and got it to rev, which is the most important thing. The other cylinders seem like they kicked in. I think at this point, maybe we'll try feeding some fuel to the carburetor and see if we can get it to run off the carb. See what it does at an idle. I'm not giving it, you know, much hope. I think compression's going to go away at those RPMs, but let's just go see. You know, I don't want to condemn it until we're actually at that point, but if you saw what those cylinders look like, you'd be surprised that they actually ran it all. So let's go get something set up on there and get some gas going to it. Well, we got a gas can set up on it. Clear line running down to the fuel pump. I had no fuel pump. The carburetor, I have no idea whether any of that's any good or not. We haven't taken any of that apart. We should probably plug that vacuum leak. I forget where that came off of. I think I went to the fuel pump. Let's just go plug that for right now. Just see if we get anything. Work the gas pedal. My hope is that it kind of takes over and will run off the carburetor. And then the next thing is I want to see if it will idle. That's probably what I'm trying to get to. See if it'll run on those other cylinders. And if it does that, then we can kind of take a little further afterwards. All right. Not much in the bottle. Let's go give her a little squirt, a little prime. Probably just leave that right on there. Shouldn't hurt anything. I'm amazed she's gonna idle. No way. No kidding. Then it's on. Imagine that. The blow by seems to have calmed down a lot too. Still got some, but not like it was. No shit. Squeezing the bottle. Alright, not get it too hot because I got no cooling system hooked up. Let's go shut that off. I'm going to go button up that carburetor and we'll throw the fans on it. I'll put the radiator and all that stuff back together. We'll just see what we get. Again, we still could have coolant leaks going from the compression leaking into there, but before I get it too hot and cause more damage than it did the first time, let's button all that back up. Well, with all that cylinder head damage, I'm not sure whether that is going to seal. We're just going to put water in it because it's a tad cheaper. So hopefully it'll fire up after we put this together and we can let it come up to temperature. I'm also curious whether it's going to idle or not. My feeling is 2 of the cylinders at an idle are going to drop out because your compression's not going to be high enough. But possibly if we can turn the idle up to where all 3 of them stay running, we can use it as is for now. I also think if it cycles a couple of cycles, the rings will kind of free themselves up from their grooves. I would call that full. I wouldn't think the system takes too much. Probably got to burp itself out of there too. Good enough for now. Alright, let's go get set up to go fire it up and see if she starts on her own. So on the left side of the machine, I want to go kind of burp the lower radiator hose. The water is pouring right out of the side. In here, when I had it apart, there was 2 screws that went into the side of the block. Looked like they were missing. They just weren't there. I didn't take them out, but they weren't there. I have a feeling they belong in there. I thought it was just for the dust cover on the inside. Maybe not. Either that or there's something else that's screwed inside there. It's got water in it for now. Let's go fire it up. I got everything hooked back up. And again, we're just trying to get an assessment. Well, I really want to see if, again, water goes into the oil. I checked the oil level. The oil level's to the full mark. So if we start getting oil above the full mark, we know it's going where it's not supposed to be going. All right, see if she starts up. Open the gas up. I would suspect it's going to put up a fight, but let's go see. Turn the key on. Let's see, it's got a metal wire for choke. Let's try doing that. I know if you saw it. I see it. I found my mistake. Hold on. That? Yeah. There's your problem. That's where your water's coming from. Not that it's obvious or anything. You may want to go put that on there and fill it back up. All right. Fire in the hole again. What about idle? It doesn't sound too bad. Keep it idle. Nah, I don't think so. I think the gas is overflowing too. Let's see, I think we might be we're out of gas. It was overflowing. Carb's leaking, so we gotta go deal with that. Let's go pitch it off for a second, see if it'll go. Choke it. I'm actually amazed how well it runs. I gotta go get some gas back in the tank, and I want to try to get it running for about 10 minutes. So maybe I'll bring you back after it's going for a little bit. It clipped off. Unfortunately, that's not a good sign. That's water getting mixed in with it. That could be stuff that's already in the exhaust, but I doubt it. Let's see what we get. I would think that's probably coolant going into it, but it might clear up. Probably won't, but it might clear up. On fire. So I figured out what that lever on the floor was for. There's no idle stop on the carburetor. That's why this was put on there. So that's what that was doing. So that was meatball to keep the engine running. Yeah. Okay. So the next issue I have is the carb is flooding over and it's running right out of the throat of the carburetor. And judging by the rotted out boot, it's been doing it a while. The bottom of this boot is rotted. You see it dripping down through. I'm going to try, I don't know if the float is right inside here. This is where the gas is coming in. I'm going to take that banjo nut back off. We'll take these 3 screws off, see if there's a needle and seat that we can kind of clean up and stop that from happening. Because right now when I'm doing all the, I just keep pinching the fuel line. At an idle, I think what it's doing, it's flooding it out. It can't keep up with it. You know, although it runs, I don't think it's going to make any power. It's part of the other problem. You hear it like when you rev the gas up, the acceleration is very slow. So even if we do get her going, it's unfortunately I think it's going to be lethargic. But I haven't given up yet, apparently. I get a kick of all the little stuff that's been done to try to Mickey Mouse it to keep it running, you know. Between the running that wire up for a choke, it's missing the stops for the idle speed. They're not even there. They're gone. So I don't know if somebody took it apart to repair it and then it wouldn't idle, and then they went and they put that goofy thing on the pedal. Everybody thought it was for like a PTO or something. So did I. You know, they would keep the RPMs up. Nope, just just a way to keep it running. Get that screw out of there first, and that clip that I just lost. Yeah, let's hopefully this has a float that we can work on. Get out of our way. Yeah. I'm gonna go try cleaning that up, make that so it functions correctly, turns on and off. So right now it's not. Maybe the float might even be sunk too, you never know. I'm gonna blow out that bowl too. That doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't look great. Got some couple of polywogs floating around in the bottom there. Found the idle speed adjustment. That hose right there, which is on the lever. There's screws on the other side though for, I don't know, maybe it's for fast idle. They're not even there, they're just missing. I really didn't see anything all that dirty with the needle. Took it apart, it was clean on the inside. Pop it back in, see what we get. Float's not sunk neither. We're gonna look right there. We'll unclamp the fuel. Let the bowl fill up and see if it continues to flood out. Could be something internally wrong with that carb too. I don't know what that red stuff is underneath there. Like fabric or something. I don't know what that is. See there, I'm talking about the rubbers all burned up on the boot. Like either that's been off for a long time, or had a fire and it melted it, or the fuel's been leaking back out of the carb like that for a long time and it rotted the boot away. I don't know. Kind of looks like it's still doing it. Well, I'll try firing it up again and see what we get out of it. And I just shut it off. It was pouring gas out again. You can see all how wet it is down below. I'm gonna try taking that out and resetting the float level a little lower. Knock that float level down. I think it's probably a carb problem. Let's go fill it and see at what point it starts pouring through. Well, I figure that's about where it would stay, or should stay. About halfway up. I'll let that sit for a minute. Seemed like it took a little bit. I wonder if there's just like a passage that is like if it had an accelerator pump or something in it, where the pump diaphragm or whatever is in there is rotted out and it's just allowing fuel to bypass it. If I take a rag and wipe that down, see if it's getting wet. Yeah, let me grab a rag. I don't see anything. Let's go for broke. There it goes. So that's the level where it starts flowing over. Right there. But the thing is, I don't see any port or anything up that high that causes it to do that. I don't know if you guys can see it, it's running out of the carb right now. Let's go see what level it goes down to. If it goes down to a level that's, you know, ridiculous, if it goes down to like 3/4 of an inch from the bottom, there's something wrong with the carburetor. So I'll let that do its thing. Find what level it goes to. If not, then the float adjustment will take care of it. It seems to stop right at that level is good. So I think the float, tweaking it, should do it. Let's go put that back together. We'll try it again. And all I did on the float itself, I took the little tab and I bent the tab up a little bit, so as the float comes up, it shuts the needle off a little bit earlier and lets that level of fuel, instead of being up here, be knocked down here a little bit. That's more like it. Put the idle set, Float levels down a little bit so it's not flooding over. Topped off the coolant, I put the cap on it, I let it pressurize, see what we get. Seems like the exhaust has calmed down. We'll see what happens as that runs a little bit too, see if that steam starts increasing as the coolant pressure comes up. So check out that carb. That's staying dry. So let's let that get up to temperature. If it works. Yeah, it's getting there. We'll let everything do its thing. We'll see if the fan comes on and all. Then we can probably run it through the gears to see what the transmission's like. Wish the fan would come on. Definitely burning off all the water that leaks out over it. That's just steam. It's not really smoke, it's steam. Let's turn down the idle a little more. We're about 2/3 of the way up. I don't know where it would come on. Take it right there, starts dropping a cylinder. Yeah. Got diameter. Doing a function check on all the lights and everything. Seems like they work. Yeah, I gotta lose it. I don't know what these are supposed to idle at anyway. That sounds a little high. I would think probably, I don't know, maybe 900, 800. I think we're at, if I had to guess, I'd say we're probably at about 1200. I would think it would smoke like oil smoke more than anything. How bad those cylinders are. Could be. Maybe that's what it is. Exhaust won't rust. Fan came on. At right about wherever you see right there. Not the light getting it on. I was wondering if one of these switches might have turned it on. So we'll let it cycle a couple of times. It's been running for about 10 minutes now. Pop the breather off. There's blow by we're getting. It's really not bad. Not like when it was first doing it. Huh. Well, while it's running, we might as well pop it in gear and let the transmission stuff kind of spin around a little, huh? I think it's gonna hurt anything. flip that lever the other way. I don't see much of a difference between that that looks slower, doesn't it? Yeah. So that little lever in the middle is high and low range. We're trying to figure out what this was. Get the D, the N, and then nothing here. So that's high range, and this is low range, and it's neutral in between. I'm gonna let it spin in gear for a little while, so all the gooey parts move around. How are we doing for smoke? Clearing up pretty good. I'm gonna just let those cylinders polish themselves as best as possible. I never would have thought that engine was going to come back. Still don't know if we're going to get water in the oil or anything yet, but so far it's looking a little promising. I'm going to try to turn the idle down some more. I want to see if it'll start dropping cylinders at an idle. We'll leave it there for a while. You can kind of tell all of a sudden the engine will start shaking, you know, it'll start skipping a beat. But right now it's still running on 3. Be curious to see what the compression comes up to, you know, after it. Man, those cylinders were shot too. Amazing. I'll keep letting it run. Let's see what we're getting. Oil level. It was right to the top of that. Looks like it's maintaining. We haven't picked up any water. That's a good sign. Also keep an eye on the cooling system too, see if that starts to go down. Let's go slowly open that radiator cap and see what we got going on in there. Scared? Yeah, got some pressure on it. Not terrible. Take a peek in there. Oh, he's a little cloudy looking, but I wouldn't say that's oil in there. Plus, you know, whatever got flushed through the system, you know, I'm sure that radiator wasn't exactly the cleanest. Good. We're probably going to do now, I'm going to let her just cool down for a cycle and see how it restarts. Well, I actually let it cool off for a few days, and here we are now. I was having a problem. It would kind of run good, restart, then it wouldn't, and fight you and have to go crank the crap out of it and get it to fire on one cylinder, and then it would idle, and it would not idle. So it's kind of dancing around what it likes to do. So I'm going to go take a little bit of a break from that, and we're just going to do a little bit more assessment on the rest of the truck and trying to get the rest of the truck at least to yard driving conditions. No matter what engine it has in it, it's still going to need the rest of the stuff kind of functional. So brake pedal goes to the floor, the back tires are flat. I want to look into the rear differential gear ratio because that may be a problem for us. I put a piece of tape on both tires in there, even with the leaf spring. Let's just kind of mark, I guess, straight down where the drive shaft is. It'll be on this side. Marker's done. And we'll spin it, and it'll give us a ratio. It's an open differential, so you got to kind of grab both tires and do it, you know, because if you literally could spin one tire and the other tire spin the other direction and nothing happens, you know what I mean? So let's go get her. All right, so we are right there, even with the leaf springs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it is looking like so that's 7 if I counted right, and this one's not even there yet. So what's that, 7.5? So it's like 7.5 to 1. Every time the drive shaft spins 7.5 times, the tire goes around 1. That's a really stretched out gear ratio. I can imagine what that ring gear and pinion look like size-wise. So whatever you hook to it, if it really, like I say, a normal rear end on a car is like 3 to 1, and we're more than double that. And the higher the one that's not a 1 goes, 3 to 1, 5 to, you know what, the slower the vehicle is going to go for the same input. So if you have a car and it does 100 miles an hour, a motorcycle does 100 miles an hour, and it has a 3 to 1 ratio on the back, and you put it in this, your top speeds are going to be 50, 45, 50 miles an hour at full RPMs. So that's how we got to kind of thinking when we swap something around, what we can do. One thing I'm kind of thinking of, kind of sucks though, because even with the gull wing, the offset is this way. It would, the shaft actually would line up. I wonder if this has a, if that's the high and the low range. I wonder if we get a different output from output of the transmission into here. It might even be part of the trans, I don't know, but it looks like a transfer case, doesn't it? Where the high and the low range part of it. So possibly if we were to break it here, get rid of the transmission. I don't know. All right, what else were we doing? Let's go pop the back tires off of it because they suck. See what's going on with those funky lug nuts. Yeah, those funky lug nuts. What do you think that one is doing? Up there. It's kind of a, I don't know, a bolt with a spacer from a shock, it looks like. We'll find out. I have to maybe one of the studs pulled and they got it threaded right into the drum. That's a different setup, huh? Alright. Another thing too, we ain't got no brakes. Let's go take a quick look. I don't know if we want to pull that drum off or not, or should we just maybe try shoving some brake fluid in it and see where and if it pisses out anywhere. Usually got a couple of jack points that you can run screws in and it'll push the drum off. Let's go see, first of all, if you could even find, where's the reservoir for the brake pedal? Right, the pedal's there. Where a rod or something goes straight up. Wait, VW bus, it's under the dash. I wonder if that's where it is. Let's go take a peek. There it is, right there. Okay. Anything in it? Let's climb up there. Looking pretty dry. Pretty muddy too. Is this like a sleeve that comes out or no? It's got a bunch of crud. Looks like those two hoses right there are the two that fill up the master cylinder. Let's just throw some fluid in it, see what we get. Yeah. Should piss out where it's got an issue, right? We think we have at least one of the two circuits. Nothing, it was right to the floor. Pumping them up. Let's see if you get a pedal. If we don't get a pedal, we should squirt some fluid and mark its territory. Let's see if anything's coming out anywhere. Now maybe we'll start to run a bleeder on it. Anything wet on the floor? No. Alright, so you can get a wrench back here in a bleeder. And I got a little like power bleeder, one-way check valve. This is what I was talking about. It's just a piece of hose, and that's a check valve. So as you bleed the brakes, it allows fluid to go one direction and air to exit. But when it goes back the other direction, a little door shuts inside of here. So this is just going to go over the edge of the bleeder and crack the bleeder loose, and we'll pump the pedal a few times, see if we can get anything. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. How good of a seal you get on the end of the, 80% success rate. Normally do the furthest wheel away. Gets the most air out. This has got a weird system though. It goes over to the right hand rear tire. Brake line goes over there first, then the brake line runs across to this side. A lot of times you got a T and a hose that goes down in the middle. All right, see if anything happens. Nothing says the master cylinder is any good neither. Not getting nothing. I'm going to take the bleeder right out of it, make sure the bleeder's clear. Especially if you sit with no cap on it, sometimes the tip of it gets all clogged. You're opening it, but nothing's really happening. Especially when you're trying to bleed with like no pressure. Once you get pressure built up, it usually pushes through anything. Yeah, I'm going to go clean that up, make sure the little port is doing what it's supposed to be doing. I can't blow through it. Yeah, I was thinking about the engine setup, why it's doing what it's doing. I wonder, it has like a governor system on it that is supposed to make it shut down at a certain RPM. It also seems like when you fire it up cold, it's fine. And when you restart it when it's warm, I don't know if when that backs off, if how they're controlling that, how are they governing it? Are they shutting the carburetor down? Are they changing spark? What is it that they alter to get it to slow down? I wonder if it kind of comes on from time to time when I'm trying to start it when it's hot. It's just a brainstorming out loud. So I don't know if I want to pull that carburetor system apart. Maybe we'll do a compression test on it again. That's clear now, right? Yeah. And see what we get for numbers. I'm not really expecting it to be recovered. We know it's junk, but let's see if that's any better. The nozzle's right there. Was right there. There we go. She's peeing now. So it's good for that one circuit. Want to fill it back up with fluid too before I go any further. You screw yourself. You start bleeding brakes and you forget to add back to the reservoir and you run it dry. Alright, fill it back up. I'm just going to go crack it a little bit and we'll see if we can get a little bit more. Kind of want to push the old fluid out too. I'm a one-man band, so can't call somebody to pump the pedal up and hold it. Sometimes it's good if you can get it with a little bit of pressure in it to get the air out of it. It gives a little bit of zest behind it. Because sometimes like a high part of a line will have, if you're going real slow, the air just kind of stays there. So fluid gets up and over the top of it, but the air floats back to that top section. If you get a little bit of pressure behind it and it comes out with a little bit of a zest, it, forces it along. Shot number 2. Plus you can see how much air you're getting if you get bubbles in here. Like there's all that air just came out of the system. And number 3. Pedal's getting higher. And one more, and then we'll probably jump over to the front. Yeah, looking pretty good. I think we have the rear circuit. The front, not so much. And on to the front. It's not locked up yet. Good sign. All right, let's go get that bleeder set up on this one and do the same thing. You know what's better about the front brakes? You can sit here, pump it up, bleed it by yourself. Other side might be a little bit more difficult. This side's not bad. Pedal's getting pretty good. Push that mud out. It's not even a bad idea to bleed your brakes in general, just to change out the fluid as it takes in moisture over time. It gets contaminated and it starts taking out it allows the components to rust and then the rubber to get deteriorated. But the master cylinder and the wheel cylinders get a bunch of rust in them. Let's go to that. Gets on the clear side. Oof. See how bad that was coming out of there? It's getting worse instead of better. So that's all the crap that's in the lines and probably in the master cylinder. I want to top that up. So like that color that you might see might even be like that deterioration of the rubber too. Yeah. That's mud coming out of there. There you go, that last one looked pretty good. Plus I could see it in the line right here. It's getting much clearer. So I'm happy with this side. Let's go see if the brakes work. Yeah, good. Pedal's still a little mushy, but we got the other side to do yet. Unfortunately, that one's gonna be a little bit more tricky because I can't reach across. On a VW bus, the bar comes out from underneath it. You literally could stand in the middle of the bus underneath it and grab the bottom of the brake pedal and bleed both sides. That was the brake fluid that came out of the front. Yeah, she's a little past her due date, I'd say. But we got pedal. The thing is, you're saying to yourself, what are you going to do about wheels, man? Those tires in the back? What the heck is going on with that? I got a plan. By using a keen eye, scrounging the old internet, I came up with 4.5 new wheels that are off a Mazda RX-7. I think it's 78 to 86. Has the 110 millimeter bolt pattern on them that fits this. And that's what the two front rims were that were on it already. So I looked them up, say, well, they fit, I'll get more. So I grabbed those. The tires have 300 miles on them. I don't see any cracking or anything. I don't know how old they are, but they look quite decent. So let's go slap them back on there, and that will definitely make a roller and a stopper. So the old one was a 175. This is a 185. Sounds a little bit bigger. Who knows what it's going to do when the suspension comes down. Looks pretty good though. Closest it comes is right there by about a ½ inch, but this is just, you know, moldable by hand. Let's take a quick peek. I don't know, you can see where we are for clearances. Just concerned about right here. Yeah, you go into the turns and stuff, that does get a little bit of leaning to it. It's got a good finger's width, maybe a little more, ½ inch maybe. That shouldn't be an issue. Let's see what the, not that this is a stock tire, it's just one size down. About the same thing. The original tires are puny. 12-inch rims. There's the rear. And I tried putting that wheel on. I'm not having it. I'm looking at the studs. It's all kind of splayed inward. Let's see if we can make a little adjustment. I don't know what they planned on running with this thing, but those are some deep ass padoolies on it. Yeah, I just need a couple kicks in the right spot. I've got a lot of rust. Nice and clean. I say it looks a little bit more presentable. Probably take some dents out of that front wheel lip. Doesn't look like it's doing so much of a backwards wheelie. Plus it's off the lift too. And there's no weight in it, you know, it's meant to kind of crush down a little bit. That looks pretty good. So we got brakes, it can roll, transmission works, shifts, clutch works, lights work, engine kind of works. So I guess we got to try to come to a conclusion with what is happening with this. So let's go put some gas in the bottle again. It's been a couple of days since it's been run. We'll hook jumper cables up to it and give it a fire, see what it does, and see what we what direction we decide to go. All right, cold start. And key on. This is our choke. See if we can hit the gas pedal. The battery's dead too. It's back to its old tricks. That's what I'm afraid of. It just doesn't have it. I need the jumper pack, with the charger rather. Let's go a little bit more spunk to it. pedal. See where it is on the smoke spectrum of things. It's not terrible when it's cold, I don't think. You know, put some straight 50 weight, you know, probably wouldn't hurt neither. Can't die on us. And dead. And it starts flooding over again, so that's why it died. Alright, I gotta go pinch off that fuel source. Why does that do that? Does that float chamber like holding a vacuum and it's going down? I don't see anything wrong with the float. I don't see anything wrong with the needle. So that's definitely causing us a run issue of some sort. What do you think? So I know that carb is flooding over, but I really don't know if the carb is the actual issue. It may be that something is telling the carburetor to do just that. I'm just marking a bunch of stuff now. I take it off with different dots so I know roughly what vacuum hoses went to what. And we can call them, like that's Mr. 3 dot. I'll put 3 dots on that one. And so on. Anyway, it's got a coolant passage, which I think are these heavy hoses, right? Which ones are they? These right here, this one, and I think another one. So I think coolant flows in and out. Maybe that's a preheat. It just seems like either vacuum goes into there and tells the carburetor draws too much, or starts creating a vacuum that draws a bunch of fuel into the flow bowl. I don't know what's happening. So without further ado, I just say we go and start taking stuff apart. We'll get that carburetor right out of there. We'll look at it on a bench and we'll see if anything kind of stands out as far as what's going on with it. Kind of just educate ourselves how this thing works. Maybe we could find that there's an issue, but one way or another, we got to get rid of this thing flooding itself over. So top bolt was right there, easy to get to, and then the bottom one has an Allen bolt that goes through the center of it. Trying to figure out where they hit it, you know. Is that enough? We got it? Yeah. It's a funky setup. It's like a bullet. There we go. We free? Anything else connected? Looks like it's on a stud. Come on. There we go. I still have one fuel line connected to it. Some kind of line, some kind of hose. That one right there. What is all this? Oh. I don't know if it's going to show up in the mirror, but whatever this hose is rotted right off of wherever it went. I don't know if that's plugged or just corroded from whatever this thing is. Not looking too good. I don't know if this is just blocked off or something happened to it over time. I don't know, like this is like a preheat
I thought coolant went through that and kind of warmed the manifold up. Like on a Volkswagen, they run the exhaust through it. I don't know if that's the same scenario for that. I don't know if that's a cooling line or not. It's tapped into the same as whatever this is. And this looks like it's got water coming out of it, right? Yeah. So that's a coolant line. That's a coolant line. And it's got to be returns on the other end. That's probably this is the other side of it right there. So that would feed one way in, one way out. It's probably supposed to go through that, and it's not, because it's not even connected and it's rotted out. But let's go look at the carburetor on the bench.
All right. Odd contraption. Seems like an awful lot of crap to do, a very little bit of work. I also think when it was running, it spit out some kind of red nest in the flywheel. That's all this red crap that's popping out everywhere. So it looks like coolant goes in here, probably worked some of the choke. And where did it exit? This is the top, right? Yeah. So that's how it was in the truck. So one there and out there. See a flow passage through there. And then we had, my guess is that something is causing vacuum to make it so that the float starts drawing fuel in. I don't know what that's gonna be. Let's take some stuff apart a little bit. See if anything makes sense to us. I do see some more big chunks of dirt, gravel coming out of it. Possibility that's getting flooded out again, but I don't think so. Let's go see if we see any kind of dirt on that needle. Of course I went the wrong way. It's clean down in the center. I don't see anything on the needle. Not ruling that out, that's the problem, but I'm just, it doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem like that's what the issue is. Let's go, I would think that's an accelerator pump. When you give it the gas, it shoots fuel down. So let's go give, all right. Our throttle is where? This side. Yeah, so that's going to be an accelerator pump, which will have a diaphragm in it. Let's see if we can pop that off of there. Still pliable. And that would squirt fuel into the carb. I believe this is going to be an idle shutoff. So this has a solenoid or a plunger inside of it. You put power to it, chunk, chunk, fires and opens a passage for fuel to get through. Yeah, that goes right across. That's the main fuel in. And it looks like somebody has pinched it. It's crushed. I don't know if you can see it. Somebody crushed it, so it's drawn back and crushed down. So this has been disabled and not hooked up. I cut the wires on that. It was hardwired without a connector in between it. And I would think this one's probably along the same lines. That one's the same scenario. Doesn't look, it's hard to say whether the center of that's clogged or not. The side ports look okay. And what you could do is you could actually just hook this up to a battery, ground that out and tap this, and you'll hear it fire back and forth. I'm not sure if that's clogged or not. We'll look at that later. What else we got to take apart? Let's go see what is inside there and there. It's just a open port. This might be something like slow the idle down when you're coming up off of idle. Going down to idle rather, where it doesn't just kind of slam, it kind of decelerates it slowly. I'm not sure of that though. It's got an adjustment screw in the middle. Looks like, is it hooked to the choke? Yeah, so that's hooked to the choke. So that's a vacuum pull off for the choke. And it's got a temperature. So it's got, it looks like as the coolant warms up, flows through, it tells the choke to turn off. And then it's also got a vacuum to turn the choke off. So why is it flooding over when it's running and then all of a sudden it just starts dumping fuel out of itself? What is causing that to flood like that? I guess we could try just disassembling the rest of it and putting it in the cleaner and see what we get. I also kind of wonder, so the four-wheeler carb came in that we were going to go put on the, for those who didn't see, on the Honda four-wheeler. I ordered this carb for it. And I don't know, they're pretty close as far as the amount of volume. This one's actually larger, if anything. The amount of volume that goes through. I wonder if, it looks like physically they'll take up about the same amount of room. And throttle cable would be, that can come out of there. It's just a vacuum hose. Alright, so that could be a throttle cable. And then for a choke, these run that little enrichment cable thing on the side of it. This would be fuel in. And what is that? Primer. It's probably a primer for it. I wonder if we can make a manifold up that would just bolt to those 2 bolt holes. Kind of do away with this nonsense. The other thing is, the other engines, this engine is so cooked. How much effort do I want to put into it? But I don't know. Maybe we can make a manifold up to it. We'll just hook a fuel line up and try it. See if it performs better running something like this than that whole conglomeration, especially that has that rotted out hose underneath. And possibly you could fix that and the problems go away, but I'm kind of doubting it. Seems very overcomplicated. All right, let's go see what we can come up with possibly going this route. So I dug up a piece of radiator hose. Seems like that should fit on there. Then I found a bushing. It's roughly the same size. We can make this the side that bolts to there, and we'll get a metal plate. We're gonna clear the bolt holes. Yeah. So I think if we make a metal plate and drill it out, we could bolt it to the intake manifold. We'll punch that bushing out of there, and it'll just be like that with the rubber in between matching it. What do you think? Yes, no, maybe? Let's give it a shot. Watch your toes. Now what we have hooked up is a fuel line. No throttle, no nut, no choke. We can work the throttle by hand, and I am going to give it a little nectar of the dinosaurs to prime it. See if that helps us at all. All right, no time with the present. Let's see what we get. Had to turn it off, doing good, but coolant is pouring out of one of these hoses. I am gonna go tap both of those together and just put a piece of pipe in between so it kind of does the flow that it's supposed to. Sounded good though, huh? Once it went. I just shoved the bolt in it. Might want to plug that one too. Just saying. All right. Third time's a try. Trying to know where the noise is coming from. I didn't know where it was coming from. The speakers. I'm like, man, it's got a horrible intake leak. No, it's the speakers. Still cold right yet. Got an idle speed under it. And knock her down a little. I don't know what I got for vacuum hoses hooked up, what goes to where. It's too much. Yeah, I don't know what I have hooked up to what for vacuum. You know, as far as the distributor and all, I don't think it's correct.
Just choke it a little.
Let it warm up a little, let it run, and open the door. And we'll see what it does for smoke now with a different carburetor. Again, it's smoking pretty good. You'd think it would have a ton of blow-by. It's none. Even on the other hose. That's the one, that's like the PVC. Let it warm up, see what we get. Getting it about halfway up the temp gauge. I keep bumping the idle down a little bit more and more. It does not like to take throttle though. So it's a little on the lean side, I would say. again, without trying to figure out how to wire what vacuum hoses to what and what's kind of open, that may be causing some of the problem. Plus the rest of the air cleaner is not in the circuit, you know, it's just a carb direct. So when you put the boot on, then the restriction of the air filter enriches it also. Hard to believe it's that same crappy engine that we had apart, huh? Make sure the fan still kicks on. We're at about halfway up. I got the idle pretty low. Try giving it some gas, see what we get. It's in there somewhere. Yeah, you really got to kind of feather it on the bottom end. The original carburetor had a accelerator pump, which when you hit the gas, it shoots raw fuel into the cylinder to help it kind of catch up. This carb doesn't have that. Should be coming on any second. It's about where it comes on. I just want to make sure those wires that were disconnected off the carburetor didn't have anything to do with the feedback. I don't think so. I think it's just going to have a temp switch probably on the radiator. Where water gets up to a certain temp, it'll just kick on. See how low it'll go before it stalls. He amazes me. Charging system's working, but it doesn't like when the fan comes on. I don't know if it's so much draw that it kind of stalls out the alternator. Load goes on it and kind of stalls the engine out at a lower RPM. I jumped ahead and got a bunch of stuff knocked out. We now have a gas pedal. We have a choke. The cables are up to here. I haven't mounted it yet. The intake boot is set up. Made an air cleaner for it. Took everything apart and just checked over everything. I did pull the front cover off on the timing belt, double check the marks, make sure nothing was leaking. Pulled the valve cover, readjusted the valves, and is that it? Oh, made a crossover for that cooling pipe that I had blocked off. Just tied both sides of that together and got rid of the remote starter switch. We should be able to crank from the key. So let's go fire it up, see what it does. So it's pretty much almost a cold start, I guess. Let's try it maybe with no choke, and if we need it, we'll add it to it. I got no cranky. Oh, the choke. It liked the choke. They're backing off. Sounds quieter too, it's not so tappy. Let's see if it'll idle. Sounds pretty good, huh? Can't go down that low. So I probably have to let it warm up with the choke, I guess, like you normally would. I don't think it gives it any throttle. I think it's just choke. Enrichment. Same idea. Hit the gas pedal a couple times. And that's why you test things. Throttle sticking. Run nice. Just letting it get up to temperature. I want to see what happens when the fan kicks on. And if I try going any more lower of an idle than that, it falls on its face and dies. The carb does have an air-fuel mix. It's right under the carb. You back it out and richen up the idle part of the circuit a little bit. I think might help it, because as soon as you just give it a little bit of choke, it fires right back up again. But for now, we're just gonna, I'm trying to move forward. All the steam burning off the radiator. I refilled the cooling system. Definitely running all three. It wants to live. Gaining second now. Hope that knocked the wire off. Or something that I disconnected from the carburetor. Come on, baby. There we go. Seems pretty good. See how it fires right back up, if it does. But if you grab it, give her a little bit of this, fires right up. I can work with that. We're going to need something to sit on. We got Porsche 911 flood seats, and we got RV seats. It's the jumbo version. Had to go take the armrest off the left-hand side, make a little bit more, pun intended, elbow room for the seat to fit in there. It's just sitting there, nothing holding it. What can go wrong, right?
Alright, we're in low range. Let's see what it does. Speedometer doesn't work. That's top. That's fourth gear. I don't think it has a fifth. Let's see. Tire's rubbing a little. That's reverse. Alright. Let's go try high range. Hold on. Yeah.
Sounds pretty good too. Well guys, I think we're gonna go bring this one to an end. We got it to the point we wanted to get it. We got it to it. Yard drives, woods drives, all the gears work, high range, low range works, brakes work, cooling system's doing what it should, charging system. It actually runs on all three. You got to keep the RPMs up. Other than that, you know, it'll fall on its face if you bog it a little bit, but keep it revving. It seems like it's fine. You run it through the gears. It may even be the way they are naturally. Again, it's the only one I've ever driven, so I don't have much of an opinion one way or another. It's pretty cool. A little bit of clearance around the front tires. You can see that one's rubbing on that wheel well right there in the front. A little customization with a hammer. Other than that, she's doing pretty good. I'm amazed. I never would have thought this thing would have come back to life after we saw the condition of that engine and what it was in. But for now, guys, I think we're going to call it. I want to thank you all for hanging with me, doing some wrenching, and we'll get into something else pretty cool. I guess probably on the next one. Till then, I'll see you. Bye.